Okay, welcome to our six-figure infill projects review for June of 2026. Today we're going to cover our deals that we currently have going on and what the progress that we've made from the previous month. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and um, what our progress has been. Okay, so our first deal. So we've been working on this for a little while. It got paused for a few months. So this is a deal on Federal Way. We're partnered with the architect and then also the homeowner. And so we currently have a planned 48 unit condo tower. It's kind of a great location for it because it would have views of the foothills. It's up on the bench there, so it overlooks the valley. So ultimately, really cool project. We ran into an issue with the garbage service where the garbage truck currently goes services the properties on the dead end street, but they don't have an official way to turn around. So that basically had them make us figure out the turnaround. Even though they currently turn around on a dirt lot, it's not an official turnaround. And so basically they're having us solve that problem. That put a pause on the project. And then we basically had to get an agreement with everybody signed so that everything is kind of in writing. So because of the garbage turnarounds situation, it basically caused some hesitation, we'll say, on one of the partners. And so I think we've kind of worked through that. There was some kind of misunderstanding between a couple of the partners. I think we're all on the same page now. So we should have this coming together here again here this month. I'm hopeful of that. And then we have to have a partnership agreement signed, and then we'll officially be moving forward. Now, I'd say there's a 75% chance it still ends up as a condo tower. It might not be as many units depending on what the final solution is on that trash turnaround. But then the other aspect of it is there's a 25% chance, I'd say, that the condo tower doesn't work at all because of the trash turnaround. And so if that's the case, then it can still be developed. It just ends up not being a condo tower and ends up being having to be like a townhome development. And I think that would be 15 units. So it'd still be a win. It just wouldn't be, the home run that we're looking for. But still, there's still options there. The next deal is our Sycamore 4 subdivision. It's actually a rezone and then subdivision. And so normally we don't do a lot of rezones, but this one, we kind of had an opportunity to try to rezone it, get higher density and get more money for the landowner. And then we'll also look at, partnering on the development and build out of those if it gets approved. So that hearing is actually July 6th. So it's actually coming up here in a week and a half. The neighborhood itself is very against any kind of developments like this. So I'd say it's kind of a coin flip at this point, whether it gets approved at that planning and zoning hearing. So the biggest challenge there is just that, planning and zoning, I'd say it's, again, it's 50-50. They might say no. But then we can basically appeal it to city council. And I think city council is more likely to say yes. I think everything in the code with Boise supports this project. And so we're going to really make that a point to cover during that hearing, both the planning and zoning, but also city council. Um, I feel like I've spent a lot of time kind of making my points on why this is supported by the city. The only thing that doesn't support it is really the neighborhood, like it's basically the neighbors themselves. So uh there is some, in the old HOA docs, or not the HOA docs, but the neighborhood association docs. There is some things that kind of predate all the other city code stuff that basically could limit this. But the that document and all the city documents um kind of allude to the fact that it should be updated, and that this should be supported. So so basically we'll find out on July 6th if the planning and zoning approves it or recommends an approval, or sorry, approves it. um, if they approve it, then the city council typically goes along with it. If they don't approve it, then we have to basically fight with city council to see if they'll approve it. So kind of a tough road ahead, but we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to ultimately getting an answer one way or the other, and then we kind of know what we're dealing with for the next meeting. All right, then we have Tree Village. So this is a 5-home subdivision. I'm sitting on 2 lots right now. We basically built, we had one of the houses was like custom build for the guy that sold me the project. And then we have 2 more houses that we built and sold. We have 2 more lots on there. Basically right now we're just, we're ready to build on those. We're just kind of prioritizing other client projects. And it'll actually be a little bit easier if we're under construction at the same time we're under construction on some of these other projects. So just kind of a holding pattern. We have them, we're just marketing them as a design build for potential clients right now. But we'll build on those here soon. And then we have another client project where we're splitting off a lot from an existing house. And that just went through city council 2 weeks ago. City council approved it. So that's actually an approved project. It's officially approved. The next step is we have to get the civil engineering approved. So even though the project is approved, we actually have to bring the civil plans. We have to submit those to the city and get it permitted for that infrastructure improvements. The cool thing with this one is we don't have to widen the street, or I don't think we even have to put curb or gutter in. It's just really just going to be putting sidewalks in. The biggest challenge with that is there's the property to the west, the sidewalk dead ends into an irrigation box. And so we can't work on the neighbor's property. We have to basically address it on our property. And so basically there's just some things we have to do to rework that, get the irrigation out of the ACHD right away. So there's a little bit of cost with that, but it's not terrible. And then we'll assume we'll have to upgrade the power, and then we have to put in a sewer line to the existing house. But essentially we split off a lot. The city changed the code kind of after we submitted the application here. So instead of it being a duplex plus an ADU, it's going to be a single family home with 2 ADUs. So they kind of changed it where you can't do a duplex plus an ADU, but they added where you can actually do 2 ADUs now. And so we actually netted plus a bedroom from the original plan, because we can do we lose 1 bedroom on the new lot, but we add 2 bedrooms on the old lot. So we're going to do 2 ADUs on both properties. And then that existing house, then building another single family house. All right, and then we have a Meridian subdivision. So that one is approved as well. We got payment for the fees, so we'll be paying those fees. And then that'll be finalized with the city. Ultimately, we're selling this project, or the client is selling this project, because the added sewer and water costs, or they added some things that we didn't think they were going to add during the entitlement process. And so this was our first one before we launched our official system. And so, if we were to look at this again today from the very beginning, we probably wouldn't have done this deal. But the client is ultimately, they improved the existing property. So they turned it into a duplex that cash flows, and it has the potential to be split. So the split is approved. The new buyer just has to put in the infrastructure to split it. But the cost to do that is essentially the value of the lot, and then they can build something on that next lot. So it's still a win for the next buyer. Ultimately, this buyer or this investor just doesn't want to continue on with it because it's not as profitable as what we could do on some of these other deals. So it was pending last month right away. That actually fell out of contract, so it's currently on the market again. So hopefully that goes pending again here and gets sold, and then we'll move on to the next one. But right now it's currently on the market. All right, and then we have our Xenia subdivision. So this is a 5-home subdivision in Garden City, working through entitlements right now. So this is we actually had a neighborhood meeting on Tuesday that went really well. So we had, I think, 4 different neighbors show up. And 2 of them were just curious. The other 2 actually own neighboring properties that also want to develop their properties. So the good news is there's other developments going on in the neighborhood that'll just help everything as we go. This one will obviously be in front of them, but nobody was opposed to the project. Everybody was pretty supportive of it. We also engaged with the attorney, so we'll get those HOA docs written up. We have the engineering plans kind of being worked on right now. And so we are basically working towards the submittal of the application. The subdivision application in Garden City, they require a little bit more on the front end. So there's a little bit more cost because essentially we have to submit everything at the time of application. In versus like Boise, you don't have to have all the engineering before you submit the application. So, the downside is it costs more money and more time on the front end. Um, but yeah, ultimately we're confident it'll get approved somewhere or the other. So we're looking at yeah, kind of submitting that here over the next, hopefully this next month. Then we have design review after that. Usually they have about a month of review and then a month of design review. Then it goes to planning and zoning and then city council. So we're planning on having an approval this year. Then civil plans take a couple months to review, be breaking ground likely next spring is the goal. All right, and then we have this double lot split in Southeast Boise. Last month we had one irrigation company sign the documents we're going through a request for quiet title. Basically there's like just this weird situation where when it was originally subdivided, they created this unnamed and unnumbered parcel that nobody's ever owned. And so in order to get that, so we're claiming that property because it backs this property and that's how we access the street behind us. And so in order to get that, we have to do a request for quiet title. So we've just been going through that process. So the one irrigation company signed the documents last month. The other one had a board meeting literally 2 days ago. And they said that they would sign. So we're just waiting on that signature. Hopefully that's in the next couple days. And then that process those documents will be complete. And then we should be able to just go to the courts and have them sign off on it because those are the interested parties. And so I think we'll be good there, barring any kind of other big surprises there. And then we're ready to kind of start the process with the city. So we have plans we've already been chatting with the city to go in for their early assistance, which we've already kind of done the due diligence on it. It's just an official meeting, and then we set up the interdepartmental review. So that should all be done here in July. So at the very minimum, we'll have that early assistance done in July. Most likely we'll have the IDR as well. And then we should have at least an answer on if there's going to be any additional steps with that with the request for quiet title. If there's no additional steps, then hopefully we have an answer from the courts within a few weeks. I don't know if that'll be in July officially. Maybe might be August, but then basically it's full steam ahead towards getting the project approved. Okay, and then we had another cottage village that we were kind of talking about as a partnership. Homeowner kind of got cold feet. It was a little bit wishy-washy, so there's not really progress on that. Then we have our cottage development on the bench. So we are getting ready to submit this to the city for review. So the nice thing with these cottage villages is that it's a administrative approval, which means you don't have to go to the planning and zoning council or the city council. So it's all a staff level review. So we had a couple things we had to work through on to get approved basically through different agencies before we submitted our application. So we didn't have a lot of back and forth. We also chatted with the neighbors next door because there's two properties where at some point we don't know when it happened, whatever. But anyway, the fences, the property lines don't line up with what the survey says. And so we knew that going in. Anyway, we talked to the neighbors, and they're okay with doing a lot line adjustment. We're just going to move the lot lines officially to match the fence line. So that's what we had planned all along. We just got the neighbors to agree with that, so that's good. In fact, one of the neighbors wants to buy one of the cottages, so that's even better. And then we also had the Republic Services basically kind of confirmed that our location of the trash pickup worked for them. So we're just kind of updating the site plan now. The engineers should be finished with that here in the coming days. And then the landscape plans are being worked on. And then we just have to submit the design review and parcel consolidation application. So we're planning on being able to do that here in the next couple of weeks. So we think we'll get those in front of the staff here in July, early July, I'm hoping. And then we'll probably have a project approval in August or September. And then we have to get the civil plans reviewed and approved for permits. And then we'll also have the building plans reviewed and permitted. And then likely, again, probably the same thing, same kind of pace. We're breaking ground. Most likely, well, we'll close on the property first because it's still pending full entitlements. So we'll probably close on the property like in January and then start construction right after that. And then last month, basically the day or the day after we had this, or I guess it was a few days after when we hosted this meeting last month, we had a client get this property under contract. Well, through the due diligence process, unfortunately, we had to cancel the contract. Basically, what happened is when we found out where the sewer locations were, we found out we were gonna have to bring a sewer line down. So it wasn't in the fronting road at all. And in order to access it, we thought we might be able to access it from the development right behind us. But because of the way that site plan was laid out, we couldn't do that. So we would have had to bring our own sewer main either down Adams Street. And it wasn't a super long distance. It would have been, 150 feet. But in order for us to make sense to do that, we would have to split at least 4 lots off. And in order to do that, we would have to access the drive aisle from the rear. And in order to do that, we would have to tear down the house, which, ultimately it's a profitable project, but we had to look at it as a land deal only. And so when we looked at that, because there's no value in the house, it ended up changing the dynamics there. Number one for the financing, but number two on the purchase price. Now we did actually get the sellers to agree to a lower price. Wasn't quite the price we wanted, but it was getting pretty close. However, the buyer, it just didn't work for the buyer because ultimately, they wanted to make sure that they were going to be protected at every exit possibility, which is on entitlements and on the horizontal development. And it looked like it was, about break even at the lower price at both of those points. And that's for, the first 2 years. So, and we're kind of in the same boat. We don't want somebody to just break even if they have to exit early. Or even like, some of those, there was a little bit of risk of losing money. And so we want it to look like, basically a home run on the exit. No matter, well, if you go all the way through vertical, but then we also want it to look like, okay, you're not going to lose money or or have a huge risk if you have to exit early at entitlements or selling the lots off. And unfortunately, the deal that the way the deal worked out, just with everything involved with having to bring in the sewer lines and bringing a water main down there as well, and then everything else that we had to do with it. It just shot the costs up too much, and then the having to tear down the existing house kind of diminished the value enough where it just didn't make enough sense to go forward with it. So that one's back on the market. We'll see if somebody else picks it up. It's still a good lower price project. If somebody is for sure going through all the way through vertical, or paying cash for it. That's the other thing too, is, whenever you finance something, especially from the beginning, like we were planning to do with this one, it just adds cost, interest costs through the whole project that adds to the bottom line. Um, or detracts from the bottom line, I would say. And so it makes those earlier risks or those earlier exits not as profitable when you're factoring in all that financing. And so if somebody were to go buy it cash, it would actually work out a lot better on the earlier exits, and then it would make even more sense on the vertical as well. But yeah, that's where we're at with that. And that's it. We've been presenting some different cottage deals, so hopefully we have somebody, pick up something else here in the next month or so. We have a couple of people kind of circling around deals, just no triggers pulled yet. But um, yeah, thanks for listening in, and we will see you next month.